Puts, calls, premiums, short squeezes, bear raids, fake news planning to move a price, a cheap retail-sized contract for people who couldn't afford the real thing, and a guy explaining that none of it matters because you're going to lose money anyways. Not because you're wrong, but because you can't sit still. That's not 2026. That's a book from 1688. It was written in Spanish in Amsterdam by a Jewish trader in his late 30s who had made and lost money doing every single thing he was warning you about. It's called Confusión de Confusiones. It is the first book anyone ever wrote about a stock market. Almost nothing in it has aged. Last time I told you about the man who invented short selling, specifically to destroy the company that he helped found. This is the market he broke one lifetime later, and the guy who finally sat down and wrote the whole thing out. Joseph Penso de la Vega came from a family that ran. They were Sephardic Jews, descendants of Spanish and Portuguese Jews who had been forced to convert, then hunted away, and who spent generations moving north until they finally landed in Amsterdam. Amsterdam let them stay. Amsterdam let them worship. Amsterdam did not let them into the guilds. And that's the whole thing right there. If you can't be a baker, a cooper, a brewer, or a member of any of the trades that spent 400 years building the walls around themselves, you go where the walls hadn't been built yet. Nobody had written rules for trading shares yet, so that's where they went. By the 1680s, Sephardic traders were a serious presence in the Amsterdam securities market, and disproportionately in the weird stuff, the derivatives, the options, the contracts that hadn't been named yet. De la Vega was one of them. He was also, and I love this about him, a genuine literary guy. Plays, poems, speeches to Amsterdam's Jewish literary societies, extremely online, 17th century edition. So when he decided to explain the stock market, he didn't write a manual. He wrote a 4-part conversation between a philosopher who knows nothing, a merchant who knows trade but not shares, and a shareholder who's been on the floor and has opinions. The title's a joke, by the way. Confusion of Confusions. It's riffing on Vanity of Vanities. He's telling you up front that this is going to be a mess. Here's the thing that amazes people today about 1688. The Amsterdam Exchange, a real building, purpose-built, courtyard with columns, the first thing on earth designed to be a stock exchange, was open for about 2 hours a day. Around noon to 2. Bell rings, everyone piles in, screaming, and then it's over. That was the official market. The actual market was outside in the street, in the dam, in the coffee houses, at night, in people's homes. A shift of a few guilders would get somebody knocking on a door after dark to see if a friend had heard anything. Sound familiar? The official session closes and everyone moves after hours, to the Discord, to the group chat. That's where the real information moves. 340 years, same building, same behavior. And they'd build products for it. A full VOC share was enormous. The price of a house. More than people would ever hold. So the market invented something smaller. The Ducatan share. 1/10 of a size, settled monthly, cash only, no actual ownership of anything. A pure bet where the big share was going. Size for people who couldn't play the big share. That's a mini contract. That's fractional shares. That's a retail-sized derivative invented in the 1680s for the same exact reason it gets invented now. There was a demand from people with less money, and somebody figured out how to sell to them. Options too, real ones. Pay a premium up front, get the right to buy or sell later. De la Vega explains the appeal in a way that would fit on a broker's landing page today. You know your maximum loss on day one, you can lose the premium and nothing more. He also obviously points out that people do this over and over again until the premiums have eaten them alive. But who's listening to all that? The Dutch words are perfect and I'm not going to translate them politely. The bulls were the liefhebbers, the lovers, the ones who want it to go up because they're in love with it. The bears were the contramine, the countermine, the sappers, the guys digging a tunnel under your walls while you're standing on them. And De La Vega described how the tunnel worked in detail because he'd watched it. You want the price down, you don't just sell. You get a group together and you have one man sell publicly, loudly in front of everybody, then another. You put a rumor in the right ear. A ship lost, a war coming, a governor recalled. You let the panic do the actual work, and you cover into people you frightened. He's describing a coordinated bear raid with a media strategy in 1688. He also lived through the real thing while writing it. In November of that year, William of Orange loaded an army onto ships and sailed for England to take the throne. Nobody knew what would happen. If lost, the Dutch Republic was exposed and the fleet was gone. The market shook, and then when the news came back that it had worked, it ripped. De la Vega watched a political coup get priced in real time and put it in the book. Remember from last video, after Isaac Lemaire's bear raid? The Dutch government banned short selling in 1610. They banned it again and again through the 1620s and 30s. The bans kept getting reissued, which tells you exactly how well the previous one worked. By De La Vega's time, there was a loophole with a nickname. If you lost money on a forward contract, you could refuse to pay by pointing to those edicts and declaring that the whole contract was illegal. It was legal, it worked, and doing it made you radioactive. Nobody on the floor would trade with you again. So the most sophisticated market on earth wasn't being held together by law. It was being held together by the fact that everyone would know. At the end, De La Vega gives 4 rules. Paraphrasing here because the man wrote in 17th century Spanish, and he was not brief. Rule 1. Never advise anybody to buy or sell shares. Where the guessing is this bad, being helpful is dangerous. Rule 2. Take your profits and don't kick yourselves about the ones you left. You knew you would anyways. Rule 3. Gains on the exchange are goblin treasure. Diamonds 1 minute, coals, and pebbles and tears the next. Rule 4. Whoever wants to win at this needs money and patience, because prices are unstable and hope is unlimited. That's not history. That's the entire trading psychology genre, published in 1688, and we have added nothing to it. And then the book vanished. Not banned, not burned, just forgotten, for the better part of 3 centuries. It didn't get a full English translation until 1957. 269 years of somebody's complete field guide to market manipulation and trader psychology, sitting there unread while every generation in between congratulated itself on inventing a derivative. Because that's the pattern, and that's the reason why I'm doing this channel. Every few years something shows up that we're told is new and dangerous and unprecedented. Options for retail, contracts sized for small accounts, coordinated raids, rumors that move a price before anyone can check them, traders after the bell in private, on information nobody's confirmed. None of it is new. All of it was documented by a guy who was locked out of the Bakers Guild. What's new is how many of us there are. He wasn't describing a market. He was describing people in it. Same species, same reflexes, better phones.